Hey everybody, Janae Spry, growth strategist and productivity and systems expert, and the founder of the Doer Entrepreneurs Facebook group, where you are right now. So today we are going to talk about a don't do list, which I know is probably something that you haven't heard of before, and it doesn't really sound normal. I get that. So we're going to get right into what you put on it and what it is and all of that good stuff right now. So the first thing that's really important to remember is that a don't do list helps you focus on repeatable habits and what's important there versus just a one-off success. In other words, just checking a single thing off your list and being like, yep, I did it, and moving on, instead of really creating true value in the world and making sure that you're carving out the time for that strategy and all of that good stuff that we talked about. We talked about schedules and time blocking and all of that good stuff. So really what it boils down to is what you control versus others control. And what I mean by that is if you rely on someone sending you an email and then it dinging, and then you're like, oh, my email dinged, I better go check and see what it is. That means it's other people deciding that at 2:30 p.m. that's when you're going to check your email because you're relying on other people and that external triggers for checking those things versus you creating that control inside your schedule and setting aside time for email, setting aside time for something else, and all the different things that you need to get done in a day, a week, a month, a quarter, a year. So it's very, very important to focus on this and make sure that anything that has to do with others controlling your time and deciding where it goes, you start to weed that out and put those things on your don't do list. And most of us really struggle with that just because it's the entire system is built around getting us to follow those notifications and having us look at our phone when it dings and so on. So basically, what's going to happen is people that are used to you doing that, if that's how you've been operating, if you've been super responsive, answering people's emails in a few minutes, or when every time your team member has an issue or a problem, you're just a Skype, a text, a call away to help them navigate that, you better get comfortable with disappointing or upsetting people. And sometimes those people are your clients. So it is sort of, if you have this sort of scenario where a lot of other people are controlling your time, and you're about to set up your very first don't do list, you are going to be disappointing and upsetting people. So it's really important to start thinking about how you're going to set those expectations and how you're still going to be able to achieve the same result. I mean, you're not going to leave your team members out in the cold, right? And you're not going to leave your clients out in the cold either. So it's really important to think about what kind of system you're going to implement that's not built around other people controlling your time. So on that note, let's talk a little bit about my don't do list, and then I'll talk about some things to think about when you're building your own don't do list. So the very first thing is do not check email first thing in the morning or last thing at night. This is really, really important for me. I think I've told you guys before, I have anxiety. So this is one of the things that doesn't help, but also it's really, really important to make sure you're accomplishing something before you get into email and before you get into these conversations. And in addition to that, I mean, if we're talking just about me, my brain is not fully awake. So if I'm sending those emails, I mean, there's a really good chance I may have to send a follow-up email anyway. Like, I really need to be sending email when I'm fully awake and present. And I schedule email later in my day for also this reason. The other thing is, do not reply to email ever immediately. This is something that's on my don't do list, and I still don't manage to always follow it, but I do try. And the problem with doing this, even if, for example, someone emails you right during your email time block, like your email time, and they've emailed you right in that specific moment, the problem with emailing back immediately is you've basically said, I'm available for immediate discussion on this topic. And there's a really good chance that they're going to give you yet another email that you're going to feel like you need to reply to immediately, and so on. And so instead of just one email that you're checking off, you're going to create a scenario where you guys are instant messaging is what's going to happen, right? So just waiting a little bit of time or waiting to the following time block is a really good way and a really good strategy for this, assuming, of course, that it's not urgent. The other aspect, which I just sort of mentioned, which is don't check email before you've accomplished something first. A lot of people tell me when I work with them that when they get into emailing in the morning and kind of getting into this phase, the first hour of their day is basically shot from emailing, and they feel like they don't have any momentum. And so getting into the tasks that they actually wanted to accomplish for that day, or if they're strategizing, or if they're building a funnel or something like that, it's really, really hard to do that because you just are sort of in a wah-wah feeling. You don't have that good momentum that you've just been checking things off and accomplishing things and taking action. It really doesn't generally do that for most people. So doing it a little bit later in the day is usually best. And then don't operate outside your time blocks unless you move those time blocks. In other words, if you are constantly doing things that you didn't intend to do at those times, it means your system is broken. So it's not a fix to simply ignore the system in the first place. The fix is to fix the system. So that's something that's really, really important. So if you create a system whereby you check non-urgent emails every Friday, but you end up actually checking email every single day, in the afternoon, then your system is broken and all you're doing is ignoring it. So make sure that you aren't operating outside your intentions unless you change those intentions along with it, right? So that you're being aware and intentional every step of the way. The other aspect is, and this is sort of a term that I use, is don't let people pull you into what I like to call real quickitis. So I call it a disease, that people get this disease of real quick-itis, like, oh, let me just write this person back real quickly, or, let me just take care of this item real quickly. So you're still operating outside that intentional boundary, right? So a lot of times if you have a team member that has a seemingly emergency type situation with someone, if you let them pull you into, let me handle them, let me help them fix this real quickly, then sometimes that can balloon. And again, it ruins your system of your intentional time control. So instead of that, realize that the system is broken if your team members constantly have to come to you when there's an urgent issue. If that happens on a regular basis, then it's the system that's broken, right? True emergencies do happen, but things like that, it's usually not. It's usually a broken system that the problem is. So let's talk about your don't do list and some things to think about as you are watching this video, when you take away from this video. So who is controlling your time? So every step of the way, when things are happening and when you're taking action in your business and during your workday, think about who is actually controlling your time in that moment and when you choose to do that task. Is it you? Was that the time you set aside to take care of that task? Or was it someone else? Was it a team member? Was it a client? Was it a vendor? Who is the person that is controlling your time and making decisions on what you're going to do at what point in your day? Hopefully it's you, but if it's not, then again, your system needs fixing, and those things need to go on your don't do list. Next, guys, hate to burst your bubble, but most emergencies are simply not, okay? So a lot of times when you give people space to think through something, when you've been there every step of the way to bail people out of an emergency, whether it's a client, whether it's a team member, whatever it is, if you just give them like a couple of minutes, a lot of times people can solve their own problems or answer their own questions. Obviously, there are true emergencies, like I just said in the last slide. So that's a real thing. But if your system is constantly breaking because of emergencies that are not actually real emergencies, it's just the fact that your team member didn't have the tools available to solve the problem on their own, and so they had to contact you, that is a broken system. That's not an emergency, okay? So you have to be able to empower your team members with the exact tools that they need and create a system around those things if things are happening more than like, a super one-off scenario, right? So like COVID, my items are stuck in China because of COVID. That is an emergency that, your team members may not be able to handle. But, a client having an issue with something that you do on a regular basis, that shouldn't be an emergency that has things breaking down. So again, don't step outside of your intentions. So anytime you're doing that, like, oh, this is not what I plan to do at this time or on this day or whatever, ask yourself why that is and whether there is a deviation and whether there is a breakdown in your system, because deviations from what you intend to do generally mean that your system is broken. Okay, so again, it's rare that something is a true emergency. Usually people just don't build their systems robust enough to handle lots of different scenarios and then empower the right people to handle those scenarios. So usually that's what an emergency means. So one of the things I like to do is help clients really think through, how can we help team members have the tools in place, or even just have actual tools, systems based on, apps or things like that available to help them in that way, right? So I'd love to help you guys if you have any other questions. If you already have a don't do list, I would love to see it below. That'd be really interesting if we could share all of our don't do things. So maybe you have the don't do check email in the morning thing. I think that's the most common don't do that I see, but really curious what you have on your list. And if you have any questions, comments, I'd be more than happy to help you out. Let me know below and I will get back to you. Thanks, guys. Bye.